Hello and welcome to Riverland Women, the podcast which celebrates the amazing achievements and inspiring stories of women across South Australia's Riverland. I'm your host, Kerry Lush from the podcast station. I'm a freelance writer, podcast host and coach, and I'm a former ABC radio broadcaster. Join me each week as we meet some of the extraordinary women who call this region home. This is Riverland Women. Jade Malinovski from Renmark is not afraid to walk her own path, and she's about to empower more women to do the same. Jade's a yoga teacher and a dedicated yogi, and she's developing an online space for women who are feeling anxious, struggling, stressed, or have just lost sight of who they are. More on that later in the episode. But first, I started by asking her, who is Jade?
Ooh, what a loaded question. Jade is many things. Mother, yogi, friend, sister, daughter. Pretty standard answers, I guess, but I'm finding the older I get that Jade evolves along with life. But I guess for the purpose of this podcast, I am yogi and yoga teacher, but that also blends very heavily with who I am and I guess me as a mother, because that plays a very big role in my life and will always come first. So, yeah.
What do you do?
So I guess from the outside, I'm a yoga teacher, and that has many different teaching roles. I teach at schools. I teach yoga to children. I have my own studio at our property here in Renmark. We're on an organic farm, so I feel like that blends really nicely with energetic principles. I teach weekly classes, I teach workshops, I travel around South Australia teaching classes and workshops.
What led you to yoga?
So I studied teaching at university, and since having my own children, I really... Oh God, this is a long backstory. So rewind, travelled to Europe and lived in London, lived in Europe for a few years and fell in love with yoga there. So I was a die-hard yogi, and coming back to Australia and then having my own children, I didn't intentionally do this actually. It was a very organic pairing of starting to teach what I loved, and that being yoga, to children, and then everything else has just flown from there. So it wasn't planned, it was very intuitive, and yeah, everything just grew.
How has it influenced your life? Obviously it changed your path day to day, and from that point on, once you were introduced to it, where did it lead you?
Well, it led me into business, but that wasn't my plan. That wasn't my goal at all. It was really just finding space for myself again. So once I had children and, you know what it's like being a mother deep in the trenches, and I had 3 young children under 4, and I really missed having that space for myself. So yoga was a way that I could find that and create that for myself. This was my permission to myself to give myself that time that I needed. So not only was it great mental space, it was good for me physically, and I felt like I could cope with life better. I felt like I could cope with motherhood better. And yeah, that led me to my first teacher training, which was yoga for children. And then my interest grew further in teaching yoga, and I guess also my confidence, and because I was always very confident teaching yoga to children, that's what came very naturally to me. And then I did my second training, which was level 1 yoga teacher training.
How is yoga beneficial to children?
Well, I guess the answer is the same for adults, really. It's creating space, and not just, again, physical space. It's that mental space and that clarity for them to just create awareness around their feelings and their emotions and their bodies. And we mentioned this word earlier, but giving them a toolbox of strategies that they can refer to when they need. And it's the same for us as adults. So I tend to look at, my yoga teaching as it's not what just happens on the mat. Yoga's not just an hour class that you go to and everything's fixed and wonderful. Yeah, you might walk out feeling great, but then it's also learning how to adapt that and practice in real life. And that's the same for children.
And how have you done that in your life?
Oh, I love these questions, Kerry. How have I done that in my life? I tend to look at my life, I guess it's different to the normal 9 to 5 or day to day of what most people envisage a business as. I practice, I'm up very early, I'm an early bird, so I'm in the studio doing my own practice, my own physical practice, 5 a.m. most mornings, which I just love because it's silent and quiet and spacious and it's all mine. I prioritize that for myself first. Then I find that I'm a more focused mother and wife, and probably they would say a lot more pleasant. Yeah, and then, my days are different. Like I said, I work at schools, so some days I may be at a school, some day I may be away teaching a workshop, and then I have my weekly classes too. So it's different and it's organic, and I just make it work around the family, and that will always be my number one priority.
Are your family yogis as well?
Not really. Occasionally they'll have a play with me, but no, not dedicated. Not yet.
I'm asking this of all the people I speak to, but what either brought you to the Riverland or brought you back to the Riverland, and why do you stay? There's a lot of questions in that.
There is. Okay, so we came back to the Riverland to be closer to family. We were living in the Adelaide Hills, which we did love, but we came back ultimately to be closer to family. What brought us back here? Yeah, family. Why do we stay? I mean, it is a gorgeous place to bring up children. It's a beautiful place to have a family and to be connected to nature, I think. We use the river, we walk in the bush most days. It's just a nice place to connect, I guess.
How important is being in nature to you?
Very, very. It's grounding. I feel like being in nature brings you back home. Yeah.
Is that something you try to instill in your children as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Feet on the earth, we live our lives here close to the gardens and to the food that my husband grows, and we cook it, and so it's very, I guess, cyclic, the way that we live our lives. We try to be as connected as possible. In saying that, we're not perfect, and there's a lot more that we could be doing and that we want to be doing, but as best as we can, we try and live with the cycles of the earth and Mother Nature and the food and how that all works together to create, I guess, a wholeness or a harmony.
What do you hope your children learn from that?
I hope that they learn health and happiness, and that can't be bought maybe from external circumstances. I want them to look back on their childhood and with a great sense of maybe pride that we did do things a little differently, and hope that they're not afraid to stand out and do things a little differently too.
Is that part of your focus with your community work as well, and the yoga teachings that you put out to the broader audience?
It's not my intention, no. I've never been scared to stand alone. I've never been scared to be different or do things differently. It's all just come about so naturally and so intuitively. I've just followed my love and my path and stayed true to that, I think, more than anything. There's been times where I've questioned, am I doing the right thing, or do I continue on this path? But it's always led me back because it's what I love It's what I love, and it's wholeheartedly what I live and breathe. So I think when you're honest and authentic, you can't go wrong.
Talking about your business, and what have been some of you said your business isn't, a typical 9 to 5, you're self-employed. What have been some of the challenges of that?
COVID was obviously a very big challenge. I did convert to online classes during that time. It's kind of come around full circle though. I'm back in the studio. I'm still offering things online, and that's where I hope to, focus a little more on as we move forward. I guess challenges are just ways to stop and reevaluate and look at things differently and what's working and what's not. And, we live our lives so much online that it's hard not to run a business these days without having an online presence or an online focus too. So I'm looking to merge the two a little as well.
You seem to have, I've followed you on Instagram and Facebook for quite a while, and you seem to have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media. I see you often take breaks. How do you find that it's something that I guess in business you need to have, but it seems like the values don't quite line up with yours as well?
Yeah, I absolutely struggle with that. So I'm looking to put my focus into an online membership. So I've had to get my head around the online side of things. And part of me and part of my, mindset shift with that has been, well, if I'm going to be online, I don't want to consume, I want to create. So rather than waste my time mindlessly scrolling or wasting my time with something that's not beneficial, I've got that slogan in the back of my head. Okay, if you're online, you're there to create rather than consume. So I'm trying to turn that around or flip that in my head and make it a positive learning experience rather than look at social media in a negative way. Because, my plan is to go a little bit more online, so I need to make peace with that.
Do you, over the years, have you sought the help of business mentors or different trainings to help either keep you on track or give you some guidance along the way?
No, I haven't. Part of me wishes that I had, maybe in the future. I've really turned to friends that I feel inspired by. I think that's one thing that does keep me going. Or when I get a little off track, there's a lot of internal work that's done rather than external. But that's something definitely that I will need to look into, I think.
So you obviously have quite a strong inner voice or a strong self-discipline. I'm trying to think of the right word, but obviously very self-motivated as well.
I would rephrase that as maybe a strong connection to self. I'm definitely not as motivated or disciplined as I would like to be. The yoga at 5 a.m, that's just purely because I love it. Other people get up and go for a run or go for a walk or go work out. Mine, for me, is that connection with my yoga, and that's where the discipline comes in. It's purely because I love it rather than anything else. But I have a really strong connection to self, and that's something that I have worked on and something I will continue to work on.
How do you work on that?
Well, there's a lot of quiet time. There's a lot of internal, and it's not always pleasant. It's not always lovely. And I think, people look at yoga teachers as though they've got it all together, or we're always peaceful or calm or collected, and I am definitely not. I just choose to show up and do the work, I think. And doing the work, there's a lot of feelings and there's a lot of journaling and meditation and questioning, and for me it's all very internal.
And external work, you said you were going to offer more online courses and build your business in that way. Tell us about your plans for the future?
Well, I'm very excited about my plans for the future. I've just had a photo shoot and working on building a website. I am planning an online membership specifically for women. I feel like a lot of us women are in this era of motherhood and finding space for ourselves, and what does that look like? What does it feel like? Who even am I anymore? And I feel like a lot of us are anxious and stressed and struggling, and our nervous systems are peaking all the time. So this online space that I want to create is for women who just need a little bit of time or some space for themselves. So it's not all predominantly yoga based. Yoga will obviously feature, but it's really about creating a space for women that they can come to and relax or reset, recalibrate, and offering tools and techniques that can help women do that.
Where is that in process at the moment? You said you had your photo shoot, you're getting the website developed. Are you looking at a launch date, or what's the next progression of it?
Yes, we are just working on a rebrand at the moment, and there's no exact date or timeline yet. Again, I'm not really a timeline person. Just whenever it happens, it'll happen when it's meant to. And yeah, I just want to create a space that women feel at home and where they can come to and find some peace for themselves.
So online, I'm assuming you're looking broader than just the Riverland community?
Possibly, yeah. We'll see where it goes and how it grows.
Sounds like it might be quite organic, like everything else that has occurred in your life.
Yeah, definitely. I'm one for putting it out there and seeing what happens and where it goes.
Well, Jade, thank you so much for having a chat to me on the Riverland Women podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks, Kerry.
That was Jade Malinovski from Renmark. You can follow Jade on Facebook at Balanced Life Yoga, and stay tuned for the launch of The Whole You. You can also follow this podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure you subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. Thank you for listening to Riverland Women.